I'm Dr. Hackey Reitman. Welcome to another episode of Exploring Different Brains. And today we're so lucky to have with us the great, the fabulous Maisie, who's going to tell us all about what she does and how she's helping so many people. Maisie, thanks for being on with us today.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Introduce yourself properly.
My name is Maisie Soetantyo. I am the founder of a new nonprofit in San Francisco Bay Area called Autism Career Pathways. So I am actually a long-time autism professional. I've been working with families raising kids with ASD as well as other diagnoses for about 30 years now. So I started as an undergraduate at UCLA. I was trained to do behavioral therapy. So I was one of those people you call a behaviorist, and I did that for a long time. And then I realized there's so many things that cannot be taught sitting at a table behind closed doors. I also realized that even my most successful clients, if they do manage to function in a classroom independently or with minimal support, when they come home, they just go straight to their bedroom and they're not even taking part in, being part of the family. So I just couldn't figure out, how do I help my clients to generalize their skills, to use their skills spontaneously, and also to just want to explore other people's interests, have the back and forth conversations. And, so I just didn't know how to do that. So I learned about this other program called Relationship Development Intervention. And it's very, very different. It's a family-based, parent-driven intervention. So I got certified in that about 20 years ago now. And I never looked back because, as a parent coach, you just go straight to the heart of it. The whole experience of working with parents at home, it humbles you as a professional. So when I was doing behavioral therapy, I was working at a clinic. Everything was clinic-based. And then as a parent coach, I only work with parents at home. And I realized very quickly that all this homework that I used to give to parents, and I always point fingers to parents. Well, it didn't work. None of the behaviors changed because you didn't do this. You were not being consistent and things, all of that. I was one of those cocky, clinician, telling people what to do. I was very good at it. And, I was young. I didn't know any better. And then I learned about got certified in this program, became a parent coach, and it was a whole different experience. I loved it. And of course, I became a mom. I'm a parent to a neurodiverse kid at home. And then, my clients grew up because in a relationship-based intervention, we're partners. I watched them grow up. Some of them have college degrees, some of them finish, graduate, and very few of them manage to get a job. So I'm thinking, wow, it's almost as if the world is not ready for neurodiverse people. And if I am, as a professional, I've done my best, and I partner up with the best parents. We've gone through this journey together for so many years, and yet it doesn't necessarily go anywhere in the real world as far as career pathways. We've got a big problem. So that's why last year I started the nonprofit Autism Career Pathways. And our goal is to figure out how can we better educate and support neurodiverse, screening, hiring. My passion is to help the folks who are minimally to moderately verbal, because these population, people who need more support, they're actually, they have talents, they have great work ethics, and they're untapped potentials. And I do believe that people want to help our community, small business owners, they do want to help. In California, we get tax breaks if we do hire, if we have neurodiversity initiative. And yeah, it's very, very tough still because people don't know what they don't know. So the Autism Career Pathways goal is to create a robust online video training series to help small businesses to just be more open, whether they can provide internships or part-time work. That's the goal, to be able to see, oh, this is how you possibly train somebody, an autistic adult, to work at the library. A library, why not? I just don't understand why libraries across America, wouldn't come out and say, we're hiring neurodiverse people, because it's a quiet environment. The types of jobs they have at the library, it's actually perfect. It's very systematic, so that's the goal, is to create this online short video series to show different types of workplaces. How do you assess, integrate, and support neurodiverse people? So there you go.
Well, what has been your biggest challenge so far?
The biggest challenge is to empower small, medium businesses to put their name to our database. There is very minimal database. And I am at the point now where I'm connected with Stanford Neurodiversity Program, with ASAN. I think there's so many bigger companies, bigger size companies, as well as Stanford with Dr. Lawrence Fong. They're doing such a great job trying to figure out or create a protocol for training, support for neurodiverse young adults. But if we don't have the database of willing businesses, then the rate is going to be slow.
If we can show businesses you'll make more money and it'll be easier for you if you hire this neurodiverse individual who's going to be loyal, focused,
right.
But somebody has to help them and hold their hand through it too.
That's right. And last year I took a year off from work to just learn and connect and learn from neurodiverse young adults. And I was just I was excited because I know the trend is shifting. Like this is the exciting, having a neurodiversity initiative. That's very exciting for all companies want to do it. And I learned so much from autistic adults, autistic advocates. And I even changed my mindset in terms of like teaching parents to do certain things, how to guide the neurodiverse, young family members. I just realized that we don't have a common language. What's that middle? We need a bridge between more neurotypical social norms and the neurodiverse people, right?
And communication norms.
That's right. And right now we have short video clips here and there. We have a ton of reading materials, downloadables. There's really no structure though, in terms of like what might work in your flower shop company, but what people don't talk about is the importance of relationship, right? What does that look like? And I'm a parent myself. I'm a neurodiverse myself. And when I coach parents, I say that as parents, we have to provide the safest place for all of our kids, diagnosis or no diagnosis. But more so when you have a kid who has challenges, just sensory challenges, being bullied at school, they they're being made fun of because of their differences. So I would say if people ask me what is the first step of intervention, I would say it's the parent's mindset, and that relationship connecting. If you have a child who is autistic, that natural connection just doesn't happen because the brain is atypical. So parents learn very quickly to overcompensate. So that's why we fall back to giving instructions. We actually outsource very quickly, unfortunately, because the moment you have a diagnosis of ASD, you have a report with a checklist. Well, get speech therapy, occupational therapy, behavioral therapy, this and this and this and this. And I have nothing against those recommendations, but nobody tells the parents, look, as a parent, you have so much you can do to make neural differences, to change the brain, because your child's brain is plastic.
What I'm
Yeah.
hearing from you that's so
Mm-hmm.
resounding and encouraging to me is, hey,
Mm-hmm.
let's start with relationships because
That's
let's
right.
face it, in these families of
Mm-hmm.
special needs individuals, the divorce
Right.
rate's about 1,000,000%,
That's
and
right.
there's a lot of denial going on, and then there's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
genetic issues, and there's a whole bunch of stuff. And it
Right.
amazes me here at Different Brains.
Yeah.
And I'm, by the way, I make fun of myself because I'm a parent, and
Right. Me
Rebecca
too.
often says to me, Dad, sometimes good intentions are not enough. But it
Right.
amazes me when a parent will tell me about their child who might be 40 years old, doesn't matter about age, but
Right.
and they tell me all about. And then I meet the individual,
Mm-hmm.
bears no resemblance to what the parent was talking
That's
about,
right.
you know?
That's right.
And how do you get around that? Sometimes it's a roadblock instead of a willing relationship in a way.
Well, it is a roadblock. I think it's very scary to get a diagnosis. Like it's like you're given this ultimatum. You let's say you're a dad and you dream about having a son and you have plans. You love baseball. I can't wait to take my kid to watch his first baseball game and so on. All parents have dreams, and then you have this baby, and the baby is not developing as expected. And you get a diagnosis, and it doesn't have to be autism, it could be anything, right? It's heartbreaking. It reminded me of when my mom got we learned that she got a diagnosis of cancer. It was very scary. It was a very traumatic experience. So I think as human beings, it's very understandable we go through that crisis. You do have to go through that crisis of just grieving, feeling angry, and eventually, hopefully, you get to come out to the other end of just being accepted and being empowered. You know, um, I wish that there is better parent education provided for free for parents to really help them understand if you're dealing with autism, this is what it is. And actually, with social media today, with Instagram, Facebook, learning from autistic adults is so empowering because if you're a parent of a 2-year-old, you can look ahead of you and ask any questions on social media and they will answer you any questions. They're very open. The autistic adults, the advocacy they're doing is tremendous. So I would say my advice for parents, don't be afraid. you have questions about your child's diagnosis, you go straight to the source. Learn from the adult versions of your kid so that you can know that, okay, my child is different, but there is a special place for this kid, and once you know that, I think as a parent you feel more hopeful, and once you learn how to, well, here's a question. If you outsource for therapies and your child is with other people most of the time, right? So as a mom, your role is not so much as a mom, but you're the driver. You drive your kid to this therapy, that therapy. You're a schedule manager because therapist A can't show up, or it's just you just very quickly you strip of your confidence as an intuitive mom as well as dad, right? And you outsource to professionals because you feel like, how do I make my child talk? How do I make my child stop doing that, running all over the place? And how do I, then your focus is really to put out fires. It becomes problems. And I think parents forget, uh, life shouldn't be just fixing the autism, the ADHD, but that condition also affects me as a person, and it affects my neurotypical, my other children. It affects family.
And let's work into that as a little bit of a segue to what you
Mm-hmm.
call the three phases. Can you
Right.
elaborate on that?
Oh, you're talking about the Autism Career Pathways
Yeah.
assessment?
Uh-huh.
Okay. So, the career screening tool I designed last year, the purpose of that is to show businesses and to show candidates and their families a better picture of the person's strengths, interests, aptitudes, as well as areas of weaknesses. So what comes out of this career screening tool is a short video portfolio. It's about 10-15 minutes, snapshots of what this is the person that a company might be hiring. Um, so the first phase is to look at the person's ability to self-regulate. So it's actually very simple. It's just a box of fidgets. All of them love it. And sometimes I have to check before they go home because they will put them in their pocket. want to go. So I want to show work accommodations. It's actually simple things that can also be good for neurotypicals. A quiet room, an aquarium, uh, not bright lightings, maybe curtains. It's like Google has a setup like this. They have nap pods. Facebook has the roof garden where people can just take a break and walk. It's just simple things. It's not scary things. It's not expensive. So that's the first phase. So they're allowed to bring their own fidgets from home, or they can use the box of fidgets that's made available to them during the interview, during the screening tool. And then they're also told to just bring something you can show, something you're really good at that you can show. So some of them bring their guitar. If they're musicians, they would play a song, or they can bring a stack of things that they can put together just to show if they're really good at packaging, assembling. They'll bring that and put it together. And the feedback I got, it very clearly, they all said that if just knowing I can start a professional interview by showing you what I'm really good at, that reduces the anxiety.
That's great.
So phase two looks at the executive functioning skills. So this is the heart of the assessment, where we want to show the potentials to problem solve, to transition, to organize materials, and to also just deal with challenges. So for this phase, the phase two, One of the activities was the building a marshmallow structure using marshmallow with sticks, toothpicks. And this was the activity that's commonly used by SAP and a couple of other big companies. That's what sparked the idea to me, because I saw a news coverage that during one of their summits, and that's the activity. And I thought, well, why not just develop a whole assess screening tool? So I just add more activities and develop a scoring protocol. And the last phase is to look at candidates' ability to use social communication part. So can they take what they've learned in phase 2 and partner up with somebody and explain the process? Can they ask for help? Can they show or model for someone else? So across the board, phase 3 is the hardest. So in the video portfolio, I want to show businesses, what are the type of scaffolding that we might work accommodations. So for most people is additional visual, maybe photos or written instructions. For example, it's just certain kinds of materials, organizing materials better for them. So it's not that difficult. So I'm hoping with these video resumes, it can also be given insight to businesses as well as parents. If the young adults are still living with parents, they can really see, wow, these are all activities that my son or daughter have never done before, but look at that, they're doing it. So that's what the screening tool is all about.
With our 18-plus-year-old neurodivergent interns, we have a mentorship trainee program for unpaid, and we train and mentor, and then they go on to bigger and better things.
Yeah.
We're finding a paradoxical, kind of ironic twist to the coronavirus times.
Yes.
We've actually expanded our program virtually, and we're finding everybody with different neurodiversities a lot more relaxed these days, more social. What have you been finding?
That's actually very interesting. I think it's great for the families we work with because everybody's home. So now they're actually having to figure out a way where they can go through their days and there's no escaping it. You can't really drop your kid off at a therapy somewhere. You can't have people come to your home. And mom and dads have to work together as a team. Like you take this kid, or I have a meeting, you have to communicate better. So I think for parents, as well for me and my husband, we have to communicate more, and we have time to do that. And before it was always like going, like just rushing, I think.
Ships passing in the night.
Right. It wasn't good. It wasn't good. So I think for parents, hopefully there are definitely silver linings. During COVID and after COVID. Now, for neurodiverse kids, I think that some of them do well because you remove the stress from going to school, just the peer pressure. I think maybe for ADHD students, this is good because you remove the noise, the distractions, and it's just simpler for some people, neurodiverse people, but not so much. Look, I've got 2 kids. My daughter, my 15-year-old, she's very independent. She's doing great. We don't have to worry about her. Now I have my 11-year-old who's neurodiverse. You take away that school structure, it was tough. It took us 3 weeks of just trying to establish a routine, like getting up. It's really hard. So it could go both ways. So that's COVID-19. But I really believe there's always a silver lining.
How do people learn more about you and your programs?
In terms of the Autism Career Pathways, we have a website, autismcareerpathways.com. So that's where I put basically our progress. We're going to hopefully apply for grants and be able to actually build this online video libraries. I am doing consulting to businesses and also parents. I love working with parents. I love working with families because I want parents to know there are a lot they can do at home to build career readiness. You can't just drop your kid off somewhere and tell that person, can you teach my kid to be work job ready? It doesn't work like that. It starts, we build the foundations at home. So if you want to call it family career readiness curriculum, be it. I'll package it that way. But it's I just want to empower parents, and I love doing consulting. If parents want to figure out and partner up with me, that's where they can find me, through our website. On Instagram, I do at Maisie Soetantyo. That's my parent coaching side where I actually post videos of me working with young adults, parents working with young kids, to just show what can we do at home. And the other one at ASD Career Pathways, that's for this project. So I love talking. I love talking to parents, just talking to organizations like yours to see if we can support each other.
What is the single biggest piece of advice you would have for a parent on regarding employment in the future for their young one?
The first advice is to fall in love with your family members' differences and quirkiness, because we have to see the purpose. We have to help them expand it. We have to be able to add variations. Second advice would be to nurture relationships with your community. So your local dry cleaners, flower shops, bakeries, your places in your neighborhoods, and you bring your neurodiverse young adults out. So introduce our neurodiverse family member to the world so the world can see them. I think that's important. Everything's going back to relationships and investments with other people. So have an open mindset, have a growth mindset instead of fixed mindset. That's the first step, because when you talk to another business owner and you have your neurodiverse family member standing next to you, you have to include your family member. You have to have that. You have to communicate with other people. This is my son. He loves coming here because of this. And, you got to communicate with other people who don't know anything about autism. So I think people can feel that energy and see how much you love this young adult, and I think that will eventually open up. I think over the years, when you have a young adult, then that place already, that business already know your family. They're more likely to maybe give you a couple of hours of internships, or I have so many stories like that when I interview young adults. They're working at the restaurants or food trucks. That's how it started, because it's the community, So that's my recommendation.
Maisie, thank you so much for being with us today. I learned a lot, and keep getting all those people jobs for those of us with different brains. Thank you so much for being with us.
Well, thank you so much for the opportunity. This was fun, so much to talk about, so much work to be done, but it's a good start.
Exploring Different Brains is a production of Different Brains, Inc. For more information, visit us at differentbrains.org.